Hello everybody, Tyrannical545 here. A few months ago, I covered my more accurate versions of the golden weapons from Ninjago Season 1. I had a lot of fun putting that video together, and I got a ton of views, so I figured we'd circle back for a round 2. This time upgrading what I considered as the most iconic weapons from the following 4 seasons. An Elemental Blade from Season 2, the Techno Blades from Season 3, a Jade Blade from Season 4, holy shit that's a lot of blades, and the Sword of Sanctuary from Season 5. Here's how each of them came together. Make sure you subscribe so I can prolong applying for McDonald's the second I'm done receiving my art degree.
At least we get to break the ice!
The Elemental Blade's CGI model looks incredible, with this dragon head hilt that the blade is coming out of the mouth of. The set designers took one look at that and went, "Oh, hell no! That's Realistically, what probably happened was just that the physical ones were made first, then the CGI artists just recycled the Sword of Fire hilt because they had the model available. To replicate this, you could of course snip the blade off an actual Sword of Fire and go from there, but I found that this hunted hilt emulated the bottom of the weapon better, and my broke ass didn't want to order a new Sword of Fire, so I went with the former instead. I started by cutting off a tiny bit of the dragon's snout to make the blade sit more flush against it. After snipping the lightsaber bar off, I additionally sanded down the bottom of the blade. Since it's made out of a more waxy style of plastic, they needed to be given a bit more of tooth to grip better. What a great sentence. Once the two pieces were glued, I was left with some slight elevated bits that needed to be sanded, so I grabbed out a file and began grinding down on it. Okay, that one was on purpose. Then from there, it was just a matter of applying some paint. I started with a gold base coat over the hilt to hide the residue from the glue. Then finally, it's just a case of adding the finer details, which consisted of extending the dragon's mouth back up onto the blade and adding some sky blue highlighting to the eyes and mouth. Once that's done, that'll be our Elemental Blade complete. A couple people asked if I could make all 4, and I've been considering it. The only thing keeping me hesitant is that making this first one was like a 4-hour process. So definitely let me know down in the comments if the other ones are something that you'd really like to see.
Oh, I want that!
The Techno Blades are a much easier fix, as literally all that's required to make them more show accurate is to paint this middle section gold. And also make the lightning one blue, I guess. Kind of a bizarre change they opted to make. I'm just gonna ignore that. We'll accomplish this by gradually applying more and more paint with the end of a toothpick. It's a little time consuming needing to weave around the pieces slightly bizarre angles, but otherwise this is a relatively simple process, so I opted to upgrade all 4 this time around. Once a few coats are applied, Cole and Kai's are pretty much done since the bottom stud part on theirs gets completely covered by their hilts. Also added this small cut lightsaber rod so Cole can hold both sides of his. Zane and Jay's require slightly more attention, however, since you can see more of that bottom stud, so I simply applied some additional gold paint to cover those sections up. Otherwise, though, that'll be the Techno Blades complete. Eventually, I'd also really like to take a Dremel to this piece and try to create a depowered version of the blades. I just know that'll be an incredibly time-consuming process for my lazy ass, so we'll see how or when I eventually get around to trying it. Let me know again in the comments if that's something y'all would really want to see. The Jade Blades hold a special place amongst the long lineage of Ninjago collectibles due to them being more worthless than Bricks and Minifigs PR campaign. They don't have any special powers, there's literally dozens of them in the show, they're literally nothing but trophies for the Tournament of Elements, which I think is pretty neat. The primary thing we're going to be updating here is the hilt, replacing the all green one with this more accurate and detailed gold one from a regular katana piece. While the glue is drying on those two, I'm going to do what I can to replicate this slight bit of green on the bottom of the weapon. We'll accomplish this by snipping a length of this trans bright green antenna off. I originally tried utilizing the bulb end sanded in half for this, however, I very quickly figured out that sanding down a piece of plastic this small with human-sized hands is more impractical than setting up a consignment deal with Bricks and Minifigs. Then finally, all we have left is adding the painted details, starting with these small red dots on either side of the blade, and finishing with the brown wrappings around the handle. For the latter, I decided to just follow the concave molding of the gold hilt piece instead of doing the more accurate horizontal line wrapping from the show, and honestly, I think this ended up looking way more visually interesting. But with that, our Jade Blade is complete and looking even better than Bricks and Minifigs losing their court case.
The Sword of Sanctuary.
And finally, we've got the Sword of Sanctuary, the iconic weapon that reflects the future within its blade, utilized by the ninja in battle, Moro to find the Realm Crystal, and Nia to see Ronin about to kiss her. Why did they include that last one? The weapon's design is already pretty accurate between the show and the sets, just being made up of pretty standard Lego elements. Due to this, I'm going to be adding a special little bit of extra painted detail, which we'll get to in a moment. First, I'm going to be upgrading the base weapon, starting by snipping down the katana's hilt and carving out the handguard to better resemble the cross shape it makes mechanics in the show. Then next up, we've got nothing but adding paint, starting by shining up the gold pieces with our goat from the last video, Jeffrey. From there, we've got to emulate the light blue vine pattern on the trans blue pieces, which I incorrectly identified as
Cracked ice detailing.
in the short for this weapon, because I apparently don't have eyes, not unlike Amon McNeff when he decided to style his mustache like that. Alright, I'll stop. To create the vines, I'm going to be utilizing this sky blue paint applied with the shaved down end of a toothpick. I was expecting this step to be incredibly time consuming, but it ultimately ended up being pretty fun, since matching this specific bit of detail 100% accurately to the show would have been next to impossible, and ended up giving me a lot of creative freedom to mess around with the design. What did end up being ridiculously time consuming, however, was our final step. I really wanted to figure out a way to physically represent the future reflection effect on this mod, and I eventually landed on painting the map's reflection when Moro uses the blade to unveil the location of the realm crystal. This season has so many MacGuffins. For this, I utilized an incredibly shaved down toothpick to slowly and meticulously add more and more tiny bits of paint to replicate the map. I generally tried to go in layers, adding the outline colors first before topping them off with the primary colors, with the finishing touches being the red X and a subtle gold dry brush to try to blend the effect into the rest of the blade and create this cloudiness around the reflection you see in the show. Look, I'm no Michael MGF. I could have definitely tried watering down the paints a tiny bit more and getting some cleaner lines in here and there, but in the end, I'm incredibly happy of how the effect turned out, and from a distance, you really can't even notice many of the aforementioned imperfections. But with that, our Sword of Sanctuary is complete, rounding out the set. I didn't script an outro for this one, and I'm actually leaving for a vacation pretty soon, so I'm just gonna wing this part. But overall, I'm incredibly happy of how this following batch of weapons turned out. And as always, I'm incredibly thankful for everybody's support on the shorts as I've been first unveiling them. I'm back home for the summer now, so y'all can expect the content to be picking back up slightly more. But otherwise, we're pretty much done here. Thanks for watching, subscribe and follow the socials for more LEGO and Bionicle content, and as always, have a wonderful rest of your day, unless you're associated with bricks and minifigs, in which case you can go fuck yourself.